Yes, apologies to members in the chamber because I just said this, but unfortunately the people online couldn't hear. We have some ICT problems for those members joining us online. What it actually means is that the live stream that members of the public are watching will not be able to hear or see anyone contributing online. Just to make that clear, we can hear you and you can contribute as normally to the meeting, but anyone watching online on the live stream won't be able to hear or see you. However, the meeting is being recorded and we will be able to hear you on the final recording later. So any members of the public who want to look back on that will be able to hear the contribution of people online on that. Unfortunately, this has come about late, and so we can't fix it, but I hope people understand the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I welcome all members and officers to this meeting of the Council, which has been convened as a hybrid meeting. The meeting is being recorded live and will be available to view through the Council's website and live stream. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing it either from the Council chamber, Civic Offices, Angel Street, Bridgend, or from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off or onto silent mode. Members and officers will have received an electronic copy of the agenda. I will ask officers to present a summary of the key points for the record. The agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their microphones on at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times you keep your microphone switched off, as this will help to minimize any background noise and interference and ensure that the connection remains as stable as possible. Please can I also ask that members and officers in the chamber speak directly into the microphones to ensure that they are heard by those attending the meeting remotely. Please can I ask members attending remotely to keep the cameras on at all times during the meeting. Whether attending the chamber or remotely, if any member or officers wish to raise a point or question, they should press the hands up icon on the screen at the top right hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in the order I receive requests. Please lower your hand once you have finished speaking. The chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Please do not use your microphone until I have invited you to do so. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout its duration, and where necessary will mute those not being used. I would also ask officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras for those attending in the chamber are switched off when not in use, please. I will now proceed to agenda business. Item 1, apologies for absence. Councillor Amanda Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can I give apologies for Councillor Alan Wathen and for Councillor Tim Wood, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross Thomas.
Afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Apologies for Councillor Chris Davis and Councillor Malcolm James, please.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apologies, I'm going to have to leave about 6:30 this evening as I have a prior appointment.
Thank you. That concludes apologies for absence. Item 2, declarations of interest. Have we any declarations of interest? Councillor Jonathan Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item 6 as the Community Governor on Porthcawl Primary School and any matters relating to Porthcawl Town Council. Thank you as an elected member there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jane Gebby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Personal interest in item number 6. I'm an LEA Governor for Mynydd Cymvig Primary. It's mentioned in the capital programme. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Elaine Winstanley.
Items number 6 and 8. I'm an employee of Arwen Cultural Trust who manage both the Grand Pavilion and my Stake Town Hall.
Councillor John Paul Blundell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a personal interest in agenda item 6, the capital programme report, as I'm the LEA Governor at Brentarian Comprehensive, which is mentioned in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Melanie Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare a personal interest as I am a governor at Croysty and Pencoed Comprehensive and anything to do with Pencoed because I'm also a Pencoed Town Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Declaring a personal interest, item number 6, as LEA Governor at Clasnewydd and as a member of my Stake Town Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Freya Blestow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare a personal interest in Heronsbridge as I'm a governor there, please. Thank you. Sorry, item 6. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Amanda Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I also need to declare a personal interest for that item because I'm Chair of Governors at County Primary, that's mentioned in the report as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I also declare an interest, personal interest, I should say. I am a governor in the Garrow Valley Federation, and I've also been appointed as the lead for the interim executive board at Ogmore Vale Primary School. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I declare an interest as a member of Pencoed Town Council.
Thank you. Okay, I think that concludes the declarations of interest. Move on to item 3. We have a presentation to the council by the chief exec. Oh, sorry. To apologise, it's two more coming. Councillor Martin Jones.
It's a legacy hand, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maxine Lewis.
I'd like to make a declaration, a personal declaration of interest. I'm a governor in Garrow Valley Federation of Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a personal declaration of personal interest, please, as a member of Bridgend Town Council and a governor of both Brentarian Comprehensive School and Oldcastle Primary.
Thank you. Councillor Amanda Williams.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor. I should have also said Brentag. I'm a governor, an LEA governor at Brentag as well, so that's another personal interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, would it be useful if I come in just to clarify?
Yes, please.
Members, just to clarify in relation to personal interest, you only have to declare the personal interest in relation to being a member of a community council or a governor. If that's being discussed in the papers before us, it's not a general declaration of interest.
Councillor Stephen Easterbrook.
A personal interest as a Bridgend Town Councillor.
Thank you. I think that concludes declarations of interest. So we go on to item 3. Presentation to the council by the Chief Executive of Valleys to Coast. I will now ask the Chief Executive, Mr. Shepherd, to introduce the report before we hear from our colleagues from Valleys to Coast. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As usual, I'll be very brief. This is the latest in a series of presentations by key partners. I think Valleys to Coast have been doing this for a number of years. Today we're joined by Joe Oak, the Chief Executive, and by Emma, Darren and Hugh from the senior management team. It's the usual approach where we're going to have a short presentation and there's the opportunity for members to ask questions and seek clarification for the rest of the session. So I won't say any more than that. Obviously, just to recognise, for those of you, I'm sure you're all familiar, but Valleys to Coast are our biggest registered social landlord with the biggest housing stock in the county borough, so a particularly important partner in terms of many of the challenges we face. So over to you, Joe.
Diolch, Mark. Thank you, Mayor. So, Joe Oak, Chief Executive of Valleys to Coast, and I am joined by my fellow executive team colleagues who will deliver part of the presentation. This is just an opportunity to share with you what our focus has been over the last year, our delivery and performance, and then to be talking about our future priorities. So I just want to start really in terms of just doing some scene setting. Just check you can all see some scene setting. So, you know, we've been through extraordinary times. You know, we're still seeing the recovery of COVID, and, you know, this has been followed by a cost of living crisis and economic turbulence. You know, all organisations, our supply chain has been affected. And, you know, it's not just been about us as organisations, our customers and our communities have been greatly impacted. You know, we've had to navigate the economic climate and support our customers through this. So as an organisation, we've been looking across the business to drive efficiencies to enable us to invest in our commitments that we've made this year. And our commitments have been about investing in our homes. We've made the largest investment since stock transfer and improving our repairs and maintenance service. You know, we've had a real laser focus during this financial year, and my colleagues will talk about part of these later. So we've also had to support our customers. During this year to date, we've supported 1,365 customers and helped put back 1.2 million into their pockets through our support, through our Money Matters team. We know we got some, you know, big change ahead with the political environment. You know, we're looking ahead now, we're going to have the change with the First Minister and national elections on the horizon. Alongside the economic backdrop, we've delivered the largest legislative change for the sector in decades, you know, the implementation of the Renting Homes Wales Act. We've been working with the sector on preparing ourselves for the new Welsh Housing Quality Standards, which will be launched on the 1st of April 2024. You know, these standards are going to have a sharp focus on affordable warmth and decarbonisation, you know, helping to meet Welsh Government's net zero ambitions. So, you know, we'll talk a little bit later about our approach and our priorities on how we're taking this forward. We've also been working with Welsh Government on the white paper on ending homelessness. You know, as a sector and as Valleys to Coast, we are really committed to ending homelessness. But, you know, legislation doesn't need to be the only tool. You know, we've already been working to trying to contribute in terms of ending homelessness. But we do need to ensure that we've got a person-centred approach, a sustainable approach, so that we're placing people in the right homes, in the right place with the right support. So, and I understand, you know, and we appreciate the acute pressures that is on homelessness services at the moment, and particularly in Bridgend. But with these competing pressures and priorities, you know, our finances mean that we've had to make, you know, tough decisions. You know, many of you will be aware of the context of the underinvestment in Valleys to Coast and the homes and the communities. You know, we're continuing to campaign, look for opportunities to fill that gap. And I know we've had the support of the local authority in our campaign for this. But our decisions that we constantly need to be making need to be balanced. You know, our main income source is through rent. Rent has not been able to increase over the last couple of years in line with CPI. Our costs have been increasing in line with CPI and above. So that means there is a reduction in our income, which is almost then, you know, forever in perpetuity kind of loss, which is less investment that we're able to put back in our homes. But we appreciate we've got to balance this about how do we support our customers and our communities who are impacted by the significant increase in costs. So I'm just going to hand over now to my colleagues and they'll give you a bit of an insight in terms of our performance and delivery. Hugh.
Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon. Hugh Lewis, Executive Director of Finance and Corporate Services. Joe has highlighted the backdrop in which we're working as an organisation and some of the challenges facing the sector, but also specifically to us. You'll see from the presentation in front of you that there's 8 key performance metrics. I want to focus on 4 of those. If you look at our operating margin, it's at 10.5%. In relation to the sector in Wales, that's at the lower end. As Joe touched upon, we've invested heavily in our properties, catching up on the historic underinvestment that we've seen over a number of years. Managing the inflation impact that we've seen, which has been greater than the rent increases that we've seen through our rent roll. We'd like the margin to be higher than it is, but it's evidence of where we are as an organisation and the investment that we're putting into our customers' homes. But what it does show is that we are a financially stable organisation, and our performance is solid. Witnessed through the EBITDA metric as well, which shows that we've got interest cover to fund our investments. Jo touched upon this in her scene setting. In terms of our customer income, we've seen a 1.2 million increase year on year. This has been through great support for our customers through our Money Matters team. This is great. You know, it secures income, but makes our customers secure as well. Moving on to empty properties, we've seen a 35% reduction in Q3 this year versus the same period last year. Again, it makes us shows that we've got an increase in the number of properties available to our customers and to the borough as a whole. Finally, touching on the new homes pipeline. As part of the investment in our properties, we've got 327 new homes in our secure pipeline, and these will be available and be coming online over the coming period. Thank you. Hand across to, I think, Emma now.
Thank you, Hugh. Emma Howell is Executive Director of Housing, Customer and Communities. So I'd like to kind of focus on the sort of tackling and preventing homelessness. Sort of being part of the housing community, we see the unprecedented scale of homelessness in Wales and across Bridgend. And we're trying to do our part in addressing this. 98% of our vacant homes come to BCVC for nominations off their Common Housing Register, and this includes our new build homes. 62% of those have been allocated to priority homeless households. We've helped expand the ABBA project, the alternative to B&B, by providing homes into that project, young persons projects, and we're looking in the future to increase our support into the Housing First programme.
Cheerio. I'm going to go on assisted set this time in the morning. Okay, lovely. Right? Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. Okay. So that was the work we're doing to work with nominating homes from the Common Housing Register. So looking on the other side, our other part of preventing homelessness is to look at the sort of support and prevention work, so sustaining tenancy, so people live for a long time and happily in our homes. We are one of the top performing housing associations. We're in fact in the top 5 performing housing associations for arrears performance with a rent debt of 2.81%. And we've achieved this through supporting our customers. So Joe's already mentioned the £1.2 million that we've put into our customers' pockets with our Money Matters team. But we've achieved this success through 0 evictions. We've had no evictions or legal actions this year from our homes. In fact, we've only ever done 1 eviction in the last 4 years. So hopefully that then is really kind of working upstream with prevention for homelessness. But it's not just homelessness agenda that we're looking at. We have been focusing hard on our brilliant basics and pouring our energies into the nuts and bolts of being a good landlord, albeit we recognise that we still have a journey to go on. But we're looking to set our horizons higher and to be more than just a landlord. An example of how we are working around the social care agenda is that we've been successful for some bids with Housing for Care grants, namely 131,000 for the installation of assistive technology into 3 of our older person schemes. This will provide a modern service to our customers, hopefully helping them to live happy and longer in our homes with less support on statutory services. We've also got a pending grant of 285,000 to support BCBC's Care Leavers scheme. This is for 3 properties to support care leavers within the boundaries of the Bridgend Borough. And this is to build on the successful delivery of the pop-up homes for children in care that we have previously delivered. And I'd like to pass on to Darren now.
Thank you, Emma. Darren Davis, Executive Director of Development, Assets and Sustainability. So in terms of looking ahead on our priorities will always include the quality of homes that we provide to our customers and our communities. And this year sees one of the highest capital investments that we will make into our homes, the current homes and our new homes programmes, with in the region of £20 million being spent on those homes. And that will include anything from kitchens and bathrooms through to our new build programme. And we will supplement that investment with funding from the likes of Welsh Government through the Social Housing Grant Programme, Transition Accommodation Grant Programme, or Housing for Care funding. We're really proud that we've substantially reduced the number of empty homes, as Hugh mentioned in one of the indicators earlier on, with investment of £2.6 million, which brought in to management 35 homes which had been vacant for many years. And we're very proud to see that number reduced to 85, and we will continue to see that number reduce over the coming 12 months. We're working very closely with Welsh Government on the Optimised Retrofit programme. It's their funding which supports energy efficient improvements in the homes. And with their funding and our match funding, we will invest in a region of £2.6 million on the energy efficiency of a number of homes in the new year. Of course, repairs and maintenance is a very important service that we provide to our customers. And we've substantially reduced the backlog of reactive repairs that existed primarily as a result of the COVID lockdown. And we're very proud to see those numbers substantially reduced to a very manageable number. And the investment programs I referred to earlier on are now informed by the data that we collect and the repairs history. And we're ensuring that where we can, those investment programs are helping to reduce the inconvenience and dissatisfaction that can be caused through a reactive repairs service. And those in the room may well have heard of Llanw Property Services, the wholly owned subsidiary that we are creating, and that will go live on the 1st of April of this financial year. And Llanw Property Services is being created to provide agile and high quality repairs and maintenance services to our customers. Moving on in terms of the energy efficiency of our homes, and I suppose we really are focusing on the affordability for our customers in living in those homes. I've talked a little bit about the ORP programme, but we now have the Welsh Housing Quality Standards 2023, which were launched in October 2023. And in future engagement sessions with council members, I would certainly like to provide further, more detailed information in terms of those standards and what they mean for us and the sector at large. But we're working very closely with Welsh Government on those standards, and I think it's fair to say whilst most of those standards are achievable over time, the energy efficiency standards that they are expecting the sector to deliver are probably financially unaffordable for the sector. So we will retain a very close working relationship with Welsh Government to help the sector achieve the higher standards that we all want to achieve. We are continuing to improve our business and be a more efficient business, and when we do that, the efficiencies that we gain and the money that we save, we then invest that back into the homes and our services. And I quoted earlier on the very substantial capital investment we're making, and that's been as a result of the improvements we've been making across the business. But we continue to seek to understand our customers and our communities, and we've been out in the communities meeting our customers and the wider stakeholders in those communities to understand what do they need from us as a housing provider within the region. And we continue to reshape our organisation and develop and improve our services to be aligned to our customers' needs. And Emma is leading on our customer engagement strategy and the review of that strategy, and we will certainly be seeking a range of stakeholder and customer review of that strategy, and we'll bring that forward in future sessions. We've recently interviewed for a new chair of our Board of Management. Our current chair is stepping down, I think, after about 5 years, a very successful 5 years with us. And we've very recently interviewed, and we will soon be able to announce who that chair is. We can't do that today for obvious reasons in terms of that process, but we're very excited about the candidate that we believe will be joining us come April. And we continue to invest in a placemaking strategy. We have signed up to the Placemaking Wales Charter, and we work with a number of partners, including the local authority and Keep Wales Tidy, to make improvements into the soft and hard landscaping areas within our communities. And we are investing heavily in IT to improve the efficiencies of our services. Again, that efficiencies will make a return financially that we invest into our homes and services, but also enable our colleagues to undertake more added value activities when they're working with our customers. And finally, in terms of growth, we want to grow as an organisation. And in growing, we want to ensure that growth is based around the homes and services and wider community. And we'll ensure that any growth adds value to those communities, not just Valleys to Coast. And we will want to continue the very good work that we believe that we have and partnership that we have with the local authority to ensure that those growth aspirations are aligned and support the local authority's agendas too. And of course, any growth will fulfil the purpose of Valleys Coast, that being providing homes and places where people feel happy and safe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. The last time I came to council chambers, it was online, so and presented the strategy for Valleys to Coast. So I'm hoping we've just given you a bit of a flavour now of what has been our priorities. You know, there's been a real sharp focus. I think when I did talk about the strategy, we talked a lot about brilliant basics in Valleys to Coast. We've really been on a journey to try and turn the organisation and the services around. You know, improvements have been made. We can demonstrate that through our evidence and our data. We know that we're still on a journey and where our priorities need to be. So I want to say diolch, thank you, and we're open here now for any questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We have a question from Councillor Richard Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be interested to know how Valleys to Coast deal with the 91 antisocial behaviour cases they have ongoing, and what procedure they adopt to deal with them, please.
Hello, thank you. Yes, well, we have a customer-centred approach to antisocial behaviour like we have with Frentet. We'll use many different methodologies, both from going out, talking to customers, empowering customers to talk to each other. Where there are issues, we work very, very closely with the police. Where there are criminal activities, we do use legal procedures such as injunctions and have done over the years where things are particularly serious. So yes, we use all the tools available to us.
Thank you. Councillor Heidi Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. It was really informative. You talked about affordability of your homes, and one of the issues raised with me by residents, and I'm sure is the same with other councillors too, is in relation to increasing charges. How are rent and service charge rises determined, and how do you consult or engage with tenants when there are rises? And how is value for money measured and determined for the tenant, please? Diolch.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. So we use the Joseph Rowntree model for measuring affordability. So we look at a number of data that comes through. We use ASH data, local ONS data to assess the affordability. So there is a formula. There is a rent setting policy that's set by Welsh Government in terms of how we can apply rent increases. We also do extensive engagement across with our customers. So we've been out in the community, we ask them questions. So when we take our rent to our board of management for decision, they do hear the customer's voice. We have seen an increase in terms of affordability. There has been feedback regarding value for money, and the value for money in terms of the area that is the area of contention is to around the delivery of our repairs and maintenance service. And that's a service we recognise we need to improve, and is still on a high of our priority of us being able to ensure that we get that service in terms of improved quality, improved standards, so we are delivering value for money.
Councillor Amanda Williams.
Thank you very much. Now, I've not had much contact with Valleys to Coast, but on the occasions that I have, it's because they're urgent queries or urgent referrals because something has gone wrong or something isn't working and the family involved require urgent assistance. And I've been disappointed that when I've tried to contact yourselves, it's just put through the normal system as just a general inquiry, and I'm told I have to wait then for somebody to get in touch when I've contacted individuals. So I wondered if there's a better process for us, because I've had to then go to Joe and send an email to say this really needs picking up. So I'm just concerned about that, and whether there's a better process for us rather than just a simple referral system when we've got urgent inquiries, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. We've looked at this. There was a system, I think, where we were a bit more integrated with a local authority around councillor referrals. We've tried to ensure that they are all put through one point of contact in terms of the councillor referral inquiries email address, so that they can be managed and distributed accordingly. Because the danger we can have is if they have singular point of contact, if that person isn't in the organisation, they're not being picked up. But can we just use one of these sessions that when we have a councillor engagement, we can just pick up on this, and we can always look to see how we can improve. But we have had a number of iterations to ensure that we are picking up and dealing with councillor referrals in a timely manner.
Councillor Colin Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Just dropped my hand. So Darren mentioned earlier on about your customer engagement strategy review, which is great. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that. But also, if you could also tell us a little bit about how you've been formally engaging with your tenants in the past. What sort of things do you talk about? Do you talk about satisfaction levels with different levels of services? I'd like to know how you measure levels of satisfaction and dissatisfaction. Can you give some feedback about that last survey if you had one? And how did you respond to it? I can see it looks like you've done a few things in terms of the engagement strategy review and a new chair. But if you could talk us through what you've done in the past, the recent past, and what your plans are for the future in terms of engagement, listening to comments, complaints, feedback, and putting that into your action plan. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. So our current engagement strategy is coming to an end this year. And we've taken the approach of trying to use, rather than having a sort of generic customer panel which speaks for all customers, we've tried to use a kind of volume approach where we go out based on topics that we are looking to improve or change to get sort of satisfaction. So we've done 2 big ones on our repair services so that we can do a deep dive on everything from contractors to our DLO to different types of trades, so we can understand the satisfaction with that. We went out to over 500 customers, responded to those surveys. We did them for 2 years running. We have done, again, satisfaction surveys on our voids and new homes. We've done investigation into no access, about how we contact our customers to try and improve our services. Every year we do an engagement on our rents and our rent increases to understand whether customers feel our rents are affordable. And again, we speak into the region of 300 to 400 people there between online and door knocking. We've recently been out into the communities gathering extra data so that we've got more information on our customers. So for our sort of like ETI purposes, we've had to build a new system to hold the information and then go out collect all the data. We're up to 1,500 customers that have completed that now, so we're really pleased that we've done that in a 12-month period. So we've done a lot of work on very kind of topic specific. So going forward, we are yet to formulate the new strategy, which is why, you know, this is a good time for stakeholders and our customers to influence what we're going to be doing. I think what we would like to see is some way of kind of like pulling together these topics a little bit more into a more kind of like global look at things. So I think those are the things that we're gonna be tackling going forward. But it is all yet to be decided. We do the STAR survey, which is a satisfaction survey for all our customers. We do that every 2 years. So we'll be going out to that in 25 now, and we'll be looking to do that. And that's an independent survey done across all our customers via telephone and online as well. So we do quite a bit, but you could always do more with engagement, always.
Thank you. Thanks. Councillor Simon Griffiths.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I listened very carefully to the very helpful presentation. I noted a couple of things in there. One of them, you acknowledged the low quality of the housing stock that you adopted, and I reflect back on a number of complaints that I've received from my residents about things like black mold and problems with their houses, that they are having difficulty in getting you to fix for them. And I know a number of other councillors have problems, especially with black mold, I think, in the area, which now is a very key subject for all of us, considering the new laws in place. But I contrast that with the slide that you presented earlier, where you seem to be proud of the fact that repair numbers are down to 3,562. Surely, given the poor state of the housing stock and the number of residents who are unhappy with problems, you should be looking to do more repairs. So really, I'm asking, is it right that slide is being proud of reducing repairs? And what investment are you actually putting in to correct the problems that we're seeing from residents?
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. The statistic we provided was to illustrate how we are improving the service we provide and reducing the backlog that we had in 2020, 2021 onwards. But I totally accept the point that we want to reduce the reactive repairs by increasing the quality of homes, thereby ensuring our customers don't need to call us out to have a repair undertaken. And as I explained in the presentation, we are investing in our homes much greater than we have previously. And that investment will aim to reduce the instances of disrepair or failure in our homes that may, in instances, cause damp and condensation. And by ensuring that the fabric of the building is sound, by ensuring that the heating systems are operating and ventilation systems are operating, that those will go together with the advice and guidance that we offer our customers to reduce such instances. We are also acknowledging the improvements in the service we need to provide when we are called for responsive repairs, and that is one of the primary reasons why we created Llanew Property Services, was to allow that wholly owned subsidiary, but a business that will stand on its own 2 feet, to be able to be agile, innovative, and operate at the right speed to provide a higher quality of customer service than we've been providing in recent years.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Aspey.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question on the maintenance and improvement. Now, I've obviously been in this situation a number of times before, where Valleys to Coast own the freehold of the building, but there are private leaseholders in the building, in addition to obviously the Valleys to Coast properties. And one recent instance is where external improvements were made to the guttering, soffits and fascias. Those people with Valleys to Coast properties were obviously not charged, and then bills were being sent to the private leaseholders ranging between £1,200 and up to £4,000 I've seen in some cases. So what my question is that are Valleys to Coast going to have a review in terms of better consultation with these private leaseholders, because having that sprung on them without warning is a very, they're having to engage their own legal people, and they're also having to contact citizens' advice, etc. So better consultation is the key, but it doesn't seem to be forthcoming. Thank you.
We have well, not recently, but reasonably recently, developed a home ownership team that helps us have a point of contact for leaseholders. So if these are leasehold properties, you've got some properties with secure tenants, so people pay their rent and it has the repairs and maintenance within the rent. Leaseholders are people who've chosen to purchase their properties either through right to buy or on the open market, and they are liable to pay for the repairs and to the fabric of their home, so roofs, guttering, external walls, and that's sort of set out in their lease. Leaseholders are aware when they purchase their properties from their solicitors and their due diligence that they are required to pay for a proportion of any works that are undertaken on their homes, and that we do carry out all statutory consultation with our leaseholders. It's either a 2 or 1 stage consultation that notifies customers of how much the total cost of the works are and what their proportion of that. These works are tendered, so they are reasonably priced, and people are aware when they purchase their homes that they are liable to pay for that. Now, we've got a point of contact where people can have conversations. People are allowed to come in and view the tender documents and to sort of see how those works were made up and why those works were necessary. So all those facilities are available. So if you do have anyone who's got any concerns, if you put them in contact with us, we're more than happy to take them through that.
Thank you.
Councillor Timothy Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. My question was in relation to repairs. Yeah, definitely in my experience, it looks like the repairs are going down, especially on my patch. Just wondering, some of the concerning repairs that involved detriments to health, things like damp and mould. I just wondered, do you collect any statistics on how quickly you're investigating serious health hazards like damp and mould? And then of those that are the concern, how quickly are you eradicating the health detriment? And then in the most serious of health hazards, again, damp and mould, are you in a position to provide alternative accommodation in the most serious of cases, given the limited supply in housing we have at the moment?
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. So in reverse, I'll respond if I may. So certainly if we were to identify a very serious issue such that the current customer couldn't and shouldn't reside in the property, we would work with that customer and find alternative accommodation as soon as possible. And that could be a range of options, whether that's hotel accommodation or other such temporary accommodations. So we would certainly not leave customers living in unsafe or unhealthy conditions. As the sector has all responded in the last few years to the increased concern and awareness of damp and mould, we have, over the last couple of years, addressed several hundred cases of reported damp, mould and or condensation. And we set up a specific project group that responded to those cases, and we got through all of those cases over that period. And in the main, the cases were minor issues, of which we were able to respond to very quickly because the works themselves were minor. In terms of, can I quote statistics this afternoon? I'm not going to be able to quote statistics in terms of the response times exactly, but I think it's fair to say that we are responding promptly, and we built a surveying team with supply chain contractors that are mobilized as and when we receive calls from our customers. We're also acting proactively. So I referred earlier on to the Welsh Housing Quality Standards, and we have surveyors that are proactively inspecting our homes or surveying our homes to establish the condition, thereby enable us to plan future investments. And they survey those homes and they assess the homes against the Housing Health and Safety Rating System. And if, again, on a proactive basis, our colleagues identify instances whereby we need to act promptly to undertake repairs, there is a follow-on from those surveys from the responsive service team and the supply chain of contractors and or our own DLO services.
Councillor Martin Williams.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation, Joe. First of all, welcome Hugh to your organisation. It's good to have a friendly accent in the house. But first, the positive, the placemaking strategy. I've seen some of the work that's beginning to be undertaken in Llysgwyn, in Pendray, and that's really pleasing to see. And I think that I think there's an example there, hopefully, where other town and community councils and Valleys to Coast can build meaningful and lasting relationships. Unfortunately, on a less positive side, building on what Councillor Amanda Williams has said, I haven't had cause to contact Valleys to Coast directly very often, but when I have, it's either because it's something very serious and urgent, or it's something quite complex, and I've got a very distressed resident. I do find that situation hasn't been the easiest to navigate through, and I have found, albeit I have to thank you, Joe, for the time we spent talking a couple of weeks ago, but we really do urgently, I think, need to find a better mechanism for us as members, or whether that's via an intermediary or something else, but to access the right level within your organisation to make something happen. Because when people come to us, they're usually at their wits' end, and they see us as the last resort. And really, it's not enough to feed our concerns into the machine. We really do need to work together, or really the pressure's on you, I guess, to find a way to make our voices heard at the right level within your organisation, so that action can be taken.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I take it on board. We'll have as a subject matter that we can work together with councillors just to talk through what is working well and where we can improve on the councillor referral system. And maybe we'll just highlight some cases, and we can do a review back in terms of how that process is working, and we can look to see how we can shape something together and any improvements.
Councillor Jane Gebbie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I've got various questions, all of which have come from my residents when they knew that you were appearing before us here today, Joe. So I don't know if you want them all at once, because there's a lot here. And some of them have been asked and answered. So, I'll move quickly on. But interestingly, before you came today, I pulled the stats from our Cabinet colleagues' referrals into our RSLs. We have 24 in a 12-month period to our RSLs that came from just Cabinet colleagues here, and all of them were for V2C. There was no others for any other RSL, which I think is not a very good indicator, irrespective of the fact that you are the largest social housing provider in Bridgend. You've also made reference to your maintenance arm's length company. Could you tell me what regard you gave to the socio-economic duty in relation to that provision? Because I am aware that trade unions raised a formal dispute with you in relation to the terms and conditions of staff, because you now have a two-tier system in place. I think that's a contradiction to your presentation, if I'm really frank. You made reference to your social duties. One of your social duties should be to be fair to all your employees, irrespective of whether they're arm's length or not. Councillor Bennett asked you about the increase in charges, and you gave an explanation in relation to rent increases, Joe. You didn't address the service charge increases, which I am aware are absolutely extraordinary this year, and I have seen the evidence of those that have been supplied to residents. I do have some other questions, but I don't know if you want to take those three first.
Thank you, Councillor Gebbie. So if I'll work backwards from those. So in terms of the service charges, we only charge for services that we provide. I think in previous years there had been services that had been not recovered through Valleys to Coast. There's been an exercise of we've been looking in terms of having to look at all our costs, all our processes, having a clearer line of sight of the services that we are delivering, and doing some of those reconciliations. They still follow the same formula we use in terms of how ensuring affordability and a fairness, but we're charging for services that we provide. If we fail to deliver a service that we've set out, then we would then reduce the service charge at the end of the year and make that appropriate reconciliation. They will be available as part of the service charge statements.
Okay. Sorry, have you completed the answer?
On that one, yes. Not all. There's two more
okay.
questions. Yes. In terms of the social economic, the dispute with Valleys to Coast with the unions, that wasn't to do with the arm's length of the subsidiary. We were making changes because we were harmonising terms and conditions across the whole of the organisation. As we create Llanw, they will be, all our colleagues will transfer under 2P arrangements. So we'll be following in terms of short. And what we're doing and allowing, just in terms of the social economic, is that what we want to do is to create real job opportunities. We've recently just done a recruitment fair, looking at the opportunity. We had 36 individuals that came to Valleys to Coast who were interested in Llanw. It's been a real great success in terms of attracting people to see it as a trade outfit, in terms of those people coming forward, people who've been affected by Tata Steel and the contractors, and being able to recruit locally from the economy. We're also, as part of creating Llanw, is working with Bridgend College to create 6 apprentices. So it is a real investment, and for us to be engaging with Bridgend employability in terms of what we can do to really generate that circular economy and to try and encourage employment from within our local communities. I just need to go back and look more about the council referrals in terms of our statistics. I'm more than happy to come back to you on that number in terms of what's come through to us. But we are the largest. I would expect those numbers to be higher than any other RSL in the area, and the other RSLs in the areas have newer stock than us in terms of their development.
I would no, I don't think so. I think we have. Thank you very much. So thank you, Councillor Kirby. Thanks for the reply. Before I take the question from Councillor Martin Jones, I will take the next 3 questions. So Councillor Stephen Eastbrook will be presenting the last question. Okay, thank you. Councillor Martin Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I thank the senior management team from Valleys to Coast for their presentation. It would be very remiss of me not to thank Valleys to Coast for the improved support I'm getting in Betws at the moment, and that's down primarily to one of your managers. We still have a lot of progress to make, but I can report we are getting there slowly. I have 2 questions, very much based on finance. So if colleagues please could take me to the first slide that was presented to members. And my first question is very much focused on the EBITDA, which is earnings. Could we go back to that first slide, please? Because it shows a very significant minus. Now, this is earnings before. It may have been discussed very briefly when we had the slide, but my request is, could we just probe that a little bit more as to why earnings are down, I think it's 200%? Yes, that's my first question. Perhaps the second question is, the value of property has increased significantly. So if I was to pose the question to Valleys to Coast, you are asset rich. Is there no scope to use that position of significant equity to further support growth, homeless, maintenance and further homes across the county borough? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, if I'll just take the first one, then I'll pass on to Joe for the second. Sorry, on the EBITDA MRI, actually it's dash 254.7%, so it's not a minus. What that metric is there to show is how we service our interest on our borrowings, which is the way we fund our housing stock. So the idea to demonstrate that is to show that we have suitable funding to finance the borrowings which finance our development. If I'll pass on to Joe for the second question.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Jones. We do have a significant balance sheet assets, and that's what we use as collateral to raise financing. But what we've got to be very mindful and an air of caution is how do we service then in terms of paying that debt back. And there's always a balance that we've got to make sure that we are managing carefully. We do raise finance. That's how we fund our new builds and new developments and our major works improvements. So back 18 months ago, we raised additional capital borrowing for us to be able to fund our development pipeline ahead. We were at that point in terms of where interest rates were very favourable, so it's a very favourable borrowing, but we know it's something we're going to manage carefully in terms of the current economic climate, because it's the servicing then of that debt once it's borrowed.
Thank you. Councillor Howell Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I must say my question has been touched upon because it relates to issues of damp and mould. And I think you will be aware that there are some extreme cases within your housing stock. The question was how many, and I think you have sort of touched on, you believe that it's around 100. But my concern is that there may be further homes yet to be identified. And what action are you taking to identify those homes that those homes that need some desperate, urgent attention? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. So we are being proactive with regards to the stock condition surveyors that we have out in the field. We are being proactive in terms of the advice and guidance that we are giving all of our colleagues, housing colleagues, maintenance colleagues, ensuring that if they see any instances of damp, mould or condensation, they report those back into us so we can mobilise colleagues to attend to any issues. We're also being proactive in providing our customers with information so that they can support themselves where possible, but then if the case is so severe, then they can report that into us as a repair item. And then we can be responsive through our surveying team to go visit the home, identify what's required, and then we are being proactive with the supply chain of contractors and our own DLO in mobilising colleagues out to undertake any remedial works.
Well, I haven't allowed it for any others, I'm afraid, Howell. So, Councillor Stephen Eastbrook, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Joe and to the senior management team. I've actually had the pleasure, as many members have been, to your offices and sort of see the way that you do things. Some of the questions that I've had and have been answered, but I got one last question. Please, can you let me know how you are progressing with the obligations placed upon you as an organisation under the Fit for Human Habitation aspect of the Rent in Wales Act, and that all your properties comply with the requirements? I think you may have mentioned it, but do you have an internal system to deal with issues raised by your customers and residents regarding that?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So, yes, we got to meet in terms of the standards of the new legislation. We are introducing an approach of doing whole home surveys. So we've recruited a team of surveyors that are going out in terms of not what we're just looking in terms of the external environment of the homes. We're going in and doing inspections of the homes. So the results then of those homes will go in through in terms of our asset management data set. That is what we use then in terms to help us prioritise and how we programme our major improvement works programme. So we're on that journey of now going through and being able to go through and do those surveys of all our homes.
Thank you. Before we conclude, could I call upon the Cabinet Member, Housing Planning and Regeneration, Councillor Good, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say very quickly, thank you to all of Valleys to Coast office for coming today. Really appreciate it. Thank you to all the members for asking some really insightful questions and really engaging in this session. A bit unfortunate to have some barracking at the end, not sure why. But just to say, I know there's still a lot of interest in these questions, and just to save Joe's inbox, If anyone does have follow-up questions they want to ask, please feel free to email them to me and I can pass them on to the team to make sure that we get those questions answered, because I do think this is a really important thing for us to keep an eye on. The strategic relationship with Valleys to Coast is extremely important to the borough and to delivering for our residents. So I'm more than happy to do that. And just once again to thank the team for coming in. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation and your response to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Diolch.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 4, to receive announcements from dignitaries. It's my intention to complete my announcements and then we'll have a comfort break. Announcement from the Mayor. I am sure that members will have seen the recent announcement that His Majesty King Charles has been diagnosed with a form of cancer and that he has already started to receive hospital treatment. We understand that while the King has postponed his public duties, he is continuing to undertake state duties and meet regularly with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Buckingham Palace has issued a statement to say that the King remains wholly positive about his treatment and that he is looking forward to returning to full public duty as soon as possible. On behalf of Bridgend County Borough Council, I would like to offer our best wishes to His Majesty, along with our hopes that he makes a full and speedy recovery. Thank you. Subject Overview and Scrutiny Committee 3 has been postponed from the 26th of February to 19th of March at 4 p.m. for the report on future waste services post 2024. Holocaust Memorial Day commemoration, Friday the 26th of January. I attended the Wales Holocaust Memorial Day ceremony held on Friday the 26th of January at the Temple of Peace, Cathays Park, Cardiff. This year's theme, underpinned by the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust, is the fragility of freedom. Our world often feels fragile and vulnerable, and we cannot be complacent. Genocide must still be resisted every day. On Sunday, the 28th of the 1st, I attended All Saints Church, Victoria Avenue, Porthcawl, for a celebration of 100 years of the Porthcawl branch of the British Legion since their formation in January 1924, and to dedicate their branch standard, which will record their 100 years existence as a Royal British Legion branch. A proud day for all Porthcawl branch members, past and present, who've worked so hard for the branch. I received an invitation from Porthcawl Comprehensive School to attend the school show, a performance of Jekyll and Hyde, the musical, at the Grand Pavilion, Porthcawl, on the 27th of January 2024. The Mayoress and I enjoyed a superb performance of this thought-provoking musical performed by the very talented students. I was, on behalf of Arwen Cultural Trust, invited to the Bridgend Youth Theatre's performance of We Will Rock You at the Grand Pavilion on Sunday, 4th February. As this was the final performance at the Grand Pavilion before it closes for its doors for an exciting multi-million redevelopment, the Mayoress and I enjoyed a marvellous performance of this multi-award-winning musical, packed full of Queen's greatest hits, performed by some of Bridgend County boroughs most talented young performers. That concludes my report. So as I indicated, I will now call for a 15-minute comfort break. Thank you. Announcements from members.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, there is some. Oh, there we go. Sorry, there was a person that wasn't present. Thank you.
And that's announcements from the members of the Cabinet. And we'll start with the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member, Social Services and Health, Councillor Jane Gebby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. In case members are approached by residents regarding what is happening with palliative care services at the Princess of Wales Hospital, I just wanted to provide a brief reminder. New filters and ongoing monitoring have recently been introduced to the water system at Iberthyn Palliative Care Unit to manage and control the risk of Legionella. While this work was carried out, hospital management detected the presence of an organism called Pseudomonas. The new water filters mean that there is no immediate risk to patient safety, but an assessment of infection control specialists concluded that a complete overhaul of the water system was required to ensure that it could be relied upon in the long term. As a result, the unit was vacated earlier this week to enable work to take place, and patients are currently occupying the unit's 8 beds, which have been transferred to Ward 21. The unit will again open as normal once the works have been completed, and this is expected on Monday, the 26th of February. Patients and their families are being kept fully informed, and the work will ensure the long-term safety of the unit's water system. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Cabinet Member, Community Safeguarding and Wellbeing, Councillor Farr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members may wish to let their residents know that the Bridgend Children's Literature Festival is set to return between Saturday the 10th and Sunday the 18th of February. The week-long festival will take place in Bringarrow Country Park, Isle Community Centre in Porthcawl, and libraries located across the county borough. Designed to inspire a lifelong love of reading among children and young people, the festival will celebrate literature and storytelling in all its forms. Events will include live theatre and music, storytelling and illustration sessions, cinema screenings, author talks, mime workshop and much, much more. Among the highlights of the festival will be Goose, an interactive performance for children aged under 5 that promises to be both bilingual and multi-sensory, and a visit from award-winning writer and poet Alex Wharton. Last year's festival delivered more than 100 events and drew an audience of more than 1,000 people. It has once more been organised by Arwen Culture Trust with support from the council, and you can find out more and book tickets by visiting the Arwen website. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Cabinet Member, Education, Councillor Blundell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure members will welcome the news that work to complete the all-new multi-use sports pitch at Bryn Teg has been completed. The 320,000 new facility has been installed for the benefit of pupils and the wider community alike. It replaces an older pitch which was in poor condition and often unusable due to drainage issues. The new pitch features an all-weather design and includes new flood lighting to maximise its availability after the school and during darker winter months. This is a great example of how schools and the council can work together effectively to deliver community facilities that will benefit local people and many future generations to come. Sorry. I also just wanted to draw members' attention towards proposals that are in place for introducing a new qualification for school pupils. Welsh Government has recently announced the Vocational Certificate of Secondary Education, or VCSE for short. The intention is for the VCSEs to replace around 300 of the more traditional vocational qualifications, such as BTECs, and to be made available for 14 to 16-year-olds by September 2027. BTECs will still be available, but after this date, you will need to be 16 and over before you can study for one. However, the Welsh Baccalaureate and the Skills Challenge Certificate will no longer be offered at this level. The VCSEs will be more practical in nature and geared towards specific jobs and careers. The aim is to simplify the different types of qualification that are currently available from different awarding bodies and to bring them together under a new single name. As well as the VCSEs, Welsh Government is planning on introducing a range of foundation course qualifications for pupils who may not be ready to take GCSEs. Skills qualifications under the titles of Skills for Life or Skills for Work will cover areas including financial literacy, practical gardening, applying for jobs and customer service. A personal project qualification will also become available, which can be completed on a subject of choice in order to test skills such as planning and creativity. Further announcements on the new qualifications are forthcoming, and I will keep you updated as the new details emerge. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Cabinet Member Climate Change and Environment, Councillor Smartwick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have positive news today to share with members as we've recently received an update on the bus network grant funding for 2024-25. As you may know, this replaces the outgoing bus transition fund, which was due to close down shortly. It's been provided by Welsh Government to help support commercial bus services across Wales. And we have received confirmation that the allocation for Bridgend County Borough in the coming financial year will be sufficient to cover the recently tendered commercial bus services, which would not otherwise continue until after 31st of March 24. This includes cross-boundary bus services as well as a substantial contribution towards an existing tendered service. As a result of the new bus network grant funding, the majority of routes and timetables within Bridgend County Borough will primarily remain the same for the year ahead as the tenders are on a like-for-like basis. One prominent change is with service number 63, both called the Talbot Green route, which will revert back into two separate services, namely number 63, Bridgend to Porthcawl, and then number 64, Bridgend to Talbot Green, but still going to Porthcawl. So while the Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency has instructed First Cymru to make minor alterations to journey times to boost performance of service number 63, Porthcawl to Talbot Green, frequency will still be every 20 minutes to and from Porthcawl. The Sunday timetable for the Bridgend 63 to Porthcawl service will also retain its hourly frequency, but will depart Porthcawl 5 minutes later than it does currently. For service number 64, Bridgend to Talbot Green, the hourly frequency will remain in place, with minor changes to departure times from Bridgend and from Talbot Green. In addition, some services will also have minor changes to timetables in order to improve on-time performance. This includes attendant service 7071 Bridgend to Cummer via Maesteg, the 72 Bridgend to Blaengarro, the 73 Bridgend to Blaengarro via Betos, and the 74 Bridgend to Nantymoel. It will also include commercial number 76 Bridgend to Betos. And First Cymru have informed that all these changes are currently now being registered, and the amended timetables will be in place for the 1st of April 2024. And finally, I'd like to thank the communities team, Kevin Sales, Transport, and all the team around him for all the great work that's been taking place the last couple of months in getting this to where we are, and we will continue to have all of our services running from April the 1st, and they will be going to Porthcawl, the new metro station. Thank you.
Thank you. Cabinet Member Housing, Planning and Regeneration, Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know about you, Mr. Mayor, but I think we should hire Councillor Spanswick to start doing Tannoy announcements because that was quite something. So just a couple of announcements from me. So last week, the leader and I had the pleasure of providing a behind-the-scenes visit to Maesteg Town Hall with representatives of local user groups to give them an early preview of the new features and facilities that they'll be working with going forward. The reaction from the groups such as Curtin Youth Theatre, the Boys Coedwigown Male Choir and Funk Force Dance Group was nothing short of spectacular and really, really positive. As one attendee commented that the hall in God's Little Acre, which I'm told means Maesteg, I get a nod from the Chief Whip, will be here for the next 100 years. And it is destined to become a jewel in the crown, not just of Maesteg and of the whole borough, which I totally agree with. It is looking really remarkable. Contractors Knox and Wells have recently laid down beautiful pen and stone slabs in the open plan public space, which will house the library, the meeting area, as well as have facilities for meetings, as well as finalising the installation of the passenger lift, which will give full access to everyone who needs to access it on all 3 levels of the town hall. While continuing to address issues of dry rot, they are also adding finishing details to the buildings and walls and completing the outfitting of the dressing rooms and the rigging for the stage to improve the sound and lighting for performances. As well as enhancing the building's potential as a community hub, this project is also preserving and safeguarding the future of My Stake Town Hall, and I look forward to seeing the public reaction when we finally open its doors in the next few months. On a similar note, on Sunday evening, the Grand Pavilion, as the Mayor's already noted, closed its doors for refurbishment following a fantastic performance of We Will Rock You by Bridgend Youth Theatre. Councillor Farr, in fact, has been wandering around the office singing Don't Stop Me Now all week. This will mark the first stage of decommissioning the building for this £18 million regeneration. So members can expect to see the building being emptied of equipment, furniture and other fixtures and fittings in the coming days and weeks. This will be followed by the stripping out of plasterboard and other materials so the building is ready for the main contract works to begin later this year. Members will be pleased to see these ambitious development plans getting underway, and will be further reassured to know that cultural events and entertainment will be able to continue in Porthcawl while the works are taking place. This is thanks to a series of pop-up pavilion events organised by Arwen, which will take place in community venues such as the Isle of Moor Community Centre, which includes jazz sessions, comedy nights, tea dances, cinema screenings, lunchtime theatre, family shows and much more. If anyone wants more details of these events and further events being held by Arwen, you can find them on the website. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Cabinet Member, Finance and Resources, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to share with members that the Legal Services team of Bridgend County Borough Council has once again achieved formal accreditation from the Law Society. Following a rigorous 2-day assessment, the department was awarded the Lexcel 6.1 standard of accreditation. This is the latest version of the Law Society's quality mark of practice, and is an internationally recognised benchmark which confirms the high quality levels of client care, compliance and practice management. By their nature, local government legal departments cover a number of highly specialised areas, and it is clearly important that our legal advisors remain vigilant, relevant, capable and effective. Achieving Lexcel 6.1 reassures us that this is indeed the case. I'm sure you will want to join me in congratulating Kelly and the team for their ongoing efforts and hard work. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Thank you. Chief Executive, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'll just update members that the live streaming I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting is apparently now working and has been since about 10 to 15 minutes into the meeting, which is good news. Additionally, members will recall that at the last council meeting, we received a presentation from the South Wales Fire and Rescue Service, and that part of this addressed the service's highly critical culture review. This has now been followed by a Senedd announcement from Deputy Minister for Social Partnership, Hannah Bleddyn, which has confirmed that Welsh Government has taken direct control of the service. 4 commissioners have been appointed to oversee the service and ensure that meaningful cultural change is fully enacted. They are Baroness Debbie Wilcox, formerly the leader of Newport City Council, Kirsty Williams, formerly the Senedd member for Brecon and Radnor, Vijith Randanaya, formerly Chief Fire Officer for the West Midlands Fire Service, and Carl Fulks, formerly the Chief Constable of North Wales Police. All functions of the fire service will now be overseen by the newly appointed commissioners, and they will have full powers to restructure and reform its management. The work is anticipated to take at least 6 months, after which the situation will be further reviewed. However, the Deputy Minister has also emphasised that these measures will continue until she is satisfied that there has been significant improvement in the culture of the service. I know this matter is understandably of great concern to many members, some of whom have contacted me since the announcement was made at the Senedd yesterday. At this stage, I'm unable to share anything further on the situation, but I will of course do so as soon as further arrangements and plans become clearer, including any role that this council may have in the process. In the meantime, on behalf of the Council, the leader has already offered the Commissioners our full support as they set about delivering fresh change, while in her role as workforce spokesperson for the Welsh Local Government Association, the Deputy Leader has also pledged the support of the WLGA towards helping implement the actions needed to create a positive and inclusive culture and one that is free from discrimination. Thank you.
Stay on his feet and just knocked him over.
Okay, thank you. Before conclude, yeah, thank you. Right, now, item 5, to receive announcements by the leader, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are continuing to support businesses and workers who were affected by the recent fire at Bridgend Industrial Estate. This was an extremely serious fire which would have caused even more damage had it not been for the swift action of the emergency frontline services, including, of course, South Wales Fire and Rescue Service. The blaze destroyed a large warehouse, damaged several neighbouring buildings and disrupted power supplies before it was brought under control. A total of 42 different employees were directly affected by the fire. South Wales Police are still investigating its cause and a suspect has been arrested and bailed. 37 of the affected businesses have been able to resume trading, thankfully. In the aftermath of the fire, council staff have been offering practical help and support to businesses and workers whose livelihoods have been affected. This has included help with locating alternative premises on both the long and short-term basis, working in partnership with South Wales Police to regain access to affected premises, identifying sources of useful funding, and ensuring that barriers and other measures have been put in place to protect businesses and members of the public. Our employability team has also been offering expert help and advice to individual employees, including support with finding new work, accessing training, gaining new qualifications, developing new skills, and more. Only yesterday I was approached by another business. That business received a call today and an offer of grants and supports, for which that business was very grateful. We will, of course, keep members updated as further information becomes available. On a related note, we're also supporting staff at the Maesteg branch of New Look, following news that the store is planning to close this month once the current lease on its Talbot Street premise comes to an end and the unit is occupied by the planned expansion of another business. Alongside representatives from Career Wales and the Job Centre, our employability team has met with staff to offer not just help and advice about finding alternative work or training to acquire new skills, but reassurance that help is at hand too. Our town centre manager has been liaising with New Look to try and locate alternative premises that enable them to retain a presence with Maesteg Town Centre, and has shared details about property improvement grants and other incentives that may encourage them to stay. For example, a property improvement grant has enabled the previously vacant building at 15 Talbot Street to be brought back into use, and work is underway at 24 Talbot Street to enable full use of that building. We remain hopeful that there's a possibility of relocation within the town centre, and I will provide a further update on the situation once it becomes clearer. In brighter news, I know that members found the recent session with the Cardiff Capital Region helpful in understanding the impact on the local economy as well as the wider economy. The region's Innovation Investment Capital Partnership Fund will support Bridgend-made and Bridgend-based digital accountancy firm Mazuma to roll out its MazApp software, developing new technology and building its total employment over 100 high-skilled local jobs. Mazuma has a long-standing track record of innovation and is now one of the UK's leading providers of online accounting services for micro-businesses. As an equity investment, not a grant, it will generate a return that can be reinvested in the future into other projects and businesses. This is excellent news for Mazuma, based at Bridgend Industrial Estate, and for the local economy. Further demonstrates the scope and potential of high-quality businesses based within our county borough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Item 6, Capital Programme Update, Quarter 3, 2023 to 2024. I will now ask the Chief Officer of Finance, Performance and Change to present this item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just for the sake of the recording, as you say, I'm Caris Lord and I'm the Chief Officer for Finance, Performance and Change. So the main purpose of this report tonight is to provide for members an update on the capital programme position for this financial year as at the 31st of December. On the 1st of March last year, Council approved a capital budget of £69 million for this financial year as part of the capital programme covering the period 2023-2024 through to 2032-2033. Since March, the programme has changed and was last considered by Council on the 18th of October last year. This report updates members on the current position. The revised programme outlines a predicted spend of £49.1 million in the current financial year. This spend will be funded from £27.2 million from Bridgend County Borough Council resources, which includes the use of capital receipts, the use of earmarked reserves and borrowing, and the remainder of the programme, £21.8 million, will be funded from external resources, including general capital grant from Welsh Government. Table 1 in your report details that revised programme, showing for each directorate what they will spend, together with the funding of that programme, which is shown in Table 2 of the report. The individual schemes making up this year's programme are shown for you in Appendix 1. The report highlights that some schemes will not spend in full this year, and slippage totalling £33.4 million is being requested from 2024 into either 2024, 2025, and in some cases beyond. The reasons for the slippage are detailed for you in paragraph 314 of the report. There are also some new and amended schemes which are detailed at 315 in your report, and these total £697,000. A revised 10-year programme is shown for you at Appendix B. It is important to note that we continue to see external pressures impacting on this capital programme. These include some delays in getting schemes delivered due to workforce shortages in the private sector companies that we are utilising, delays in getting supplies and equipment to progress the schemes as we would have hoped, and also significant cost pressures due to the issues above, together with inflation. We are seeing tenders being returned at costs considerably above the original tender price. This is leading to services having to rethink the scheme and possibly reduce specifications in order to reduce costs within the available budget. So if I may, Mr. Mayor, I just take you to section 9 of the report and the recommendations in that section. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder for the report, please? Thank you. Debate will now take place. The first question is from Councillor Howell Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And members will obviously be aware that this report was presented first at Cabinet yesterday. And in light of the financial position that the authority finds itself in, there will obviously be a number of reviews going forward on our capital programme. But one in particular I wish to bring members' attention to is that of the fleet services. There is an allocation there for provision of electric vehicles. It is our current policy, but in light of the financial position, we are going to review that policy just to ensure that it still presents good value for the authority. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen Bledsoe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask a question, please, about 3.1.4, which is on page 9, and under the heading the Cardiff Capital Regional City Deal, brackets £2.586 million. This states that as a result of the Cardiff Capital Regional reprofile of the capital contributions required for the City deal, the Council's remaining commitment has been reprofiled over the period of 2030 to 31. The Council is not required to make the contribution in the current year. I personally welcome this line. This council has unanimously supported a motion that Councillor David Harrison and I submitted to the full council meeting of the 16th of November 2022, which was to negotiate the postponement or significant reduction of scheduled CCRD payments alongside our partner local authorities. Concerningly, however, the Subject Overview and Scrutiny 3 Committee meeting of the 23rd of January 2023, my colleague, Councillor Martin Williams, sought an update on that resolution and was told in that meeting that it had been investigated, but after legal advice was not possible to do. When asking to see that legal advice, he was told that the Cabinet only were allowed to see that advice and no other councillors could see it. So now, Mr Mayor, we have a statement under 3.1.4 and the heading Cardiff Capital Regional Deal stating that it can be done. So what has changed to that legal advice that the Scrutiny Committee 3 were told could not happen?
I'll take that question if you like, Mr Mayor. This change has come about because of changes within CCR, and as they move forward, some of the contributions that we were made were ahead of what they actually required for funding, and therefore, due to the financial situation that all authorities across CCR are in, it was agreed that they would look at reprofiling that spend rather than CCR having the money up front when they didn't actually require it. So this was really an agreement across CCR that we would reprofile the money in accordance with when the spend was due to be made, rather than us doing a standard contribution every year. My understanding is the question that came up about 18 months ago was more about us withdrawing from the CCR, and that was a different issue. This is one about how we continue to fund it, but at a level and in a timely manner in the timings with which CCR require that funding.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Timothy Thomas.
Mr Mayor, can I just come back on that, because that wasn't the resolution of council. The resolution of council was to renegotiate the reprofiling of payments, which was passed unanimously, and then in Scrutiny 3 we were told that couldn't happen legally.
Mark.
Thank you, Councillor Betzer. Yes, I think the resolution, as you say, was that we were seeking to reduce the contribution. I was party to those discussions and party to the advice that wasn't possible in view of our commitments, contractual commitments to the deal. I think we don't conflate two different. This is different. This is about a reprofiling for all parties, all people involved in the city deal. I think the specific resolution that you were seeking previously was for us to be able to reduce our contribution, and for others as well. Yeah, absolutely. And we had those conversations, and it wasn't possible at that point, and that was the advice we received, and that's what you're seeking to see. It wasn't possible because of the commitments that were made as part of our ongoing contractual commitment to the city deal. So I think they are two slightly different things. Well, not slightly different, they are two different things. I think the point you were making is that you wanted to see that advice, and I'll have to defer to legal colleagues who have to come back to you on that. But I do think it's important that it's recognised they're two different things. Karis has explained the basis of this one.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Timothy Thomas.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I got two questions. One's relatively simple. The first one is just some clarity, really, on the estimated completion time for the active travel route for Ynysodrach to Bryn Cefn, please. That's the one question. The other question is a little bit more strategic, and it relates to the revenue contribution to the capital programme. For your convenience, Mr Mayor, that you'll find that on the main report under reference 3.1.2, and that's table 2. My question, Mr Mayor, and I'd like to ask the Cabinet Member for Resources this. Could the Cabinet Member explain why there is a 944k revenue contribution to the capital programme? And this is at a time when we are facing unprecedented revenue budget challenges. Why are we committing the equivalent of 1% council tax or 1% cut to education to finance the capital programme when we have, according to this report, 33.4 million slippage going into next year?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Councillor Thomas. And I would say that's more of a technical nature. I mean, I'm quite happy to ask the questions of a strategic nature, or a policy nature, but I'm going to have to defer to the 151 officer for a technical answer to your technical question. Thank you.
I don't have the details of that in front of me, Councillor Thomas, but I can certainly pull it together for you. From memory, we have made some changes during the year to use some capital funding for some of the schemes in the programme. What I don't have off the top of my head is a breakdown of that for you, but I will certainly get that and circulate it to members after this meeting.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, a little staggered that we can't really answer a question of such financial magnitude, but I'll have to accept that. But I really do want clarification on my local question as well, the Ynysodrach and Bryn Cefn question, because constituents have asked me this, and I did ask the relevant cabinet member and didn't quite get a clear answer, I'm afraid.
Okay. Cabinet member, Climate Change and Environment, Councillor Spanswick, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You did get a clear answer, Councillor Thomas. You only emailed me just a week ago. I told you you'll inquire with officers. We have one officer dealing with active travel. I've asked him for an update. Hasn't been come yet. So it's not you haven't had an answer. You've had an answer, and you will get. And in due course, when I receive the answer from the officer, you will have the full answer. Please be patient. One officer dealing through Authority for Active Travel.
Thank you. Councillor Mark John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question relates to the capital programme, page 7. In regards to slippage for future years, or slippage to future years. With reference to point 3.1.1, table 1, a total of 33.4 million, which has been stated, has slipped into next year since we approved the capital programme in October. This is a significant change and undermines confidence in the capital programme, given that we were assured that the forecasting of projects is robust. How can 41% slippage have happened over a period of barely 4 months? Could I ask that to the cabinet member for resources, please? And while I'm there, thank you, Kelly. I'm still not there, but we getting there.
The reason for the slippage are clearly identified from 314 on. Very clearly identified.
Okay. Councillor Colin Davis, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor. Relates to page 3.1.4, page 9, regarding universal primary free school meals, and the discussion about Trelalis Primary School. Could I just have an update as to where we are with the work at Trelalis, and any idea when it's going to finish, and idea of increased capacity and a complete change around to the school's ability to provide healthy meals? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Lindsay, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. For the purpose of the recording, I'm Lindsay Harvey, Corporate Director of Education and Family Support. Members will be aware this is part of an extensive programme with regard to the provision of universal primary free school meals. Members will also be aware that some of our schools didn't have appropriate kitchen facilities to maintain the full rollout, and in light of this, Welsh Government have provided significant capital funding to help us improve our kitchen facilities. So with regard specifically to Trelalis, the planning application for the school has been submitted, although, however, there are ecological issues. I believe there are bats that have been identified at the school, which will require dawn to dusk surveys. These need to happen between May and September. The scheme will be tendered in October. There's a likely start on site in December with a completion of May 25. Now, you'll be aware that we're hoping to get all primary schools available for the universal primary free school meals from September. So we have a number of plans in place if we have delays in any of the rollout of the capital works. So what we will be doing is that we will be working with Kevinglass Infant School. They'll undertake the task of providing the food to Trelalis to make sure that all learners benefit from this from day one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Martin Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's just check my notes. With reference to 3.1.5 of the cover report, I note that Cozy Corner the cost of completing Cozy Corner has risen once again. I think we were assured about a year or so ago that it wouldn't, but it has risen once again by a further 120k. My concern about this in particular is that, again, this is revenue that is supporting this cost increase, and of course revenue is particularly rare at the moment and a precious resource. The cabinet member, I guess, for regeneration must be wondering that, with hindsight, should this authority have been better off continuing with the previous credit proposal, because we've now spent an absolute fortune on its replacement. So my question is to the cabinet member for regeneration, probably for his benefit as much as ours, because he wasn't around at the time, but when will members be able to see a full and frank report into the decisions this council made prior to and immediately after the demise of the Creddy project?
Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the council knows, I wasn't a councillor or a cabinet member during that period. My understanding about this spend on the Cozy Corner development is due, I believe, to waterwork issues and pumping within the area, which I believe we were aware of. But I'll allow the Director of Communities, Janine Nightingale, to come in on the particular point you made, Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Good. And for the purposes of the recording, I'm Janine Nightingale, the Corporate Director for Communities. Yeah, this was an expected amount of money coming through, and it was when we are consolidating the contract and moving off the site, because, you know, the site is completed, and it was because of the works to the Welsh Water pumping station that we undertook. The money is available, has been made available in the Strategic Regeneration Fund. Actually, there's a typo in the report, I'm afraid. It's called Special Regeneration Fund. That's not the budget, it's the Strategic Regeneration Fund. The money was identified at the time for this. So it is something we were expecting, but it is over and above the capital because it's been funded by revenue. So as you know, that site was completed. It's nearly fully occupied. We've had a brand new business, lots of new businesses in there trading well. We've got a new business, a nutrition business has just opened just this week. Nutrition experts who provide protein powders, I believe, to Welsh Rugby and to some other professional sporting organisations. So it's great to see that down there. The only remaining item of the Cozy Corner scheme will be the brand new children's play. They were hoping to get in by the summer. We've done some consultation with local children from the schools, and we want to get a really lovely bit of children's play there. With regard to the background to this, Councillor Williams, I know we have a number of times spoken about this. You know, the council took back possession of the site when Creddy went into administration on the 5th of November in 2020. I can't comment, I'm afraid, on what happened. All I can comment from this point forward is, and we can have this as part of a scrutiny committee if you so wish, absolutely, is from the 5th of November onwards, the council had no money, was left with a site that was partly constructed, and worked with colleagues in Welsh Government and looked at a capital programme and managed to get together over £3 million to develop out that site, rather than have that derelict site that was left. So I'm afraid I can't comment on what happened with Creddy, but I'm very happy because we've done an awful lot of work there with Welsh Government and the grants and everything we've put in place to have that as subject of a scrutiny committee in the future, if you would let us. So hopefully that's provided some reassurances for you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Good.
Yeah, just further to that, Councillor Williams, and thank you, Janine, for that response. I think that it's a really good point there that, in fact, you know, this site was, you know, we were left holding the baby, right? And we now have a wonderful place in Porthcawl. It's a great bit of regeneration. There's some really good businesses down there. It's vibrant. People want to visit it. I think it's really amazing. It shows the ambition we have for Porthcawl overarchingly. So I'm really proud that we did manage to work with colleagues to bring back into use a site that would have been left derelict by the collapse of a previous company. And I think we should all be very proud of that as an authority. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Melanie Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few questions in general regarding the capital programme. Now, given the challenging climate we are in with cost increases, limited funds and resources to consider, and difficult decisions to be made. I note we have numerous schemes and projects in the capital programme. Therefore, are you confident we can deliver and achieve all the projects and schemes already in that capital programme? Should we be prioritising those projects and schemes that can be achieved and delivered, and consider possibly putting aside or even removing those that are less achievable? And finally, Mr. Mayor, if you would indulge me, I do have a follow-on which is relative to those questions, and this one is for the Chief Executive. How and what do we want this council to be measured on by the public we serve? The outcomes, for example, results, or the vision? Whilst I appreciate both go hand in hand, all considerations should have an order of priority. And so I would like to understand, what is the priority of this council? And to encourage focus and maximise results, should consideration be given to maximum numbers of projects and schemes to be in the capital programme at any one time? Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Executive, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Evans, for the question. I think probably a question that's going to be of interest to all members. I think as context, historically, my feeling is that we probably haven't applied the same level of rigour and focus and scrutiny on the capital programme as we have on, as we've been forced to, I suppose, on the revenue programme. I think your point there is very valid. I think moving forward, we're going to have the same problems in having to prioritise and focus what we can afford from the capital programme as we've had for many, many years on the revenue programme. So I think it's a fair question in that sense. And what we are currently doing, as you would expect, is reviewing very closely the schemes within the capital programme, and they probably fall into two types, don't they? There's schemes that are already committed to, already started, and then there are some that are not started, and we need to determine whether they're affordable moving forward. So that process is ongoing. You'll also know that we have formed a capital board within the last 6 months, with standing members from both Corporate Management Board and Cabinet, where that governance and rigour and robustness will come through, and has come through already, both in terms of the reporting of existing schemes to make sure that we have a firm grip of expenditure and ensuring that budgets, where they can stay within the financial envelope, and where they can't, we have a robust explanation. But I think the latter point you make about how we're going to be measured, I think it's just important to recognise that there are a variety of reasons for why we would carry out capital schemes. So in no particular order, health and safety, statutory compliance and responsibilities, leverage, because perhaps we have to put relatively small amounts in to get large benefits, service improvements and operational efficiencies. That's clearly going to be crucial at the moment in terms of our revenue position. Perhaps invest to save. We need to think about in terms of what might help us again with our revenue position. And of course, lastly, the alignment with the corporate plan commitments, which of course you as members agree every year. Now, I'm not putting those in any particular order, but I think I'm probably trying to demonstrate that there are a number of criteria as part of that review we're going to have to look at really closely. And therefore, we can't have the whole capital programme in one of those elements. We need to understand that there's always going to be that level of request and demand for expenditure in that way. So I think what we need to be really clear on moving forward is that when a business case is put forward to the capital programme, we need to be really clear what the outcomes are or intended to be, and we need to measure those in priority order in line with the kind of things that I've said, and be very robust about that, and then monitor and measure them moving forward in the way I've described. So I hope that answers to it. I think it's just important that members recognise that in the same way as we can't do everything we'd like to do with the revenue budget anymore, it's going to be very, very similar with capital, and perhaps that's not the position we've been in historically. So I think it's important to recognise that. And I know you might then throw at me, well, we can borrow, but of course borrowing has a revenue consequence as well. So it's a very, very, very difficult situation, and we are giving that our full concentration and focus at the moment to come up with the kind of things that you're suggesting.
Thank you. Before I call in Councillor Lewin Stanley, I believe Councillor Nora Clark has a declaration.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to declare a personal interest in the mention of Credit by Councillor Martin Williams and by Janine Nightingale. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Elaine Winstanley.
Thank you. On page 11 of the report, it mentions the leasing scheme Wales. Could the director or cabinet member give us further details of the scheme and in particular the positive impacts that it will make? Thank you.
Councillor Good, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Winstanley. Hopefully will make a positive impact for any members who aren't aware. This is a scheme through Welsh Government that allows us as a local authority to have long-term leases with private landlords to guarantee them income and guarantee us the use of their property to help reduce our homelessness and housing needs. The issue with it is limited to providing local housing allowance levels of rent, which we're still in the process, myself, Caris, the housing team, of seeing whether that will create interest from private landlords, because, I think on the one hand, they will be aware that they can achieve probably quite high rents in the private market, but they are required to achieve the same standards as other housing associations, such as Valleys to Coast, etc. And on the other hand, though, if they were to come in with us, we would be able to assist them with that work and provide them with a guaranteed income, admittedly at a lower rate. So it's one of many avenues we're pursuing to reduce the need for temporary housing and accommodation across the borough, as well as I've spoken about previously, I think in the last council, the purchasing of HMOs within the borough, which will help further reduce our use of, for example, Airbnbs, hotels, etc. As we all know, it's currently running a very high bill for the authority, which, as time goes on, and Caris knows only too well running housing and the budget, that we can't afford to do that going forward. So this is one of many schemes that we're using to help reduce that problem. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Freya Bledsoe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just a very quick question on the capital programme Appendix B, page 17, line 7. There's a line here that says land purchase band B, £2 million. And I just wondered if I could seek some clarification as to what that is, please. Thank you.
Clarification, yeah? Thank you.
Yes, please.
Lindsay, please.
Thanks for that. Thanks for the question. We are looking at obviously building replacement Heronsbridge School and new buildings in Bridgend West in Cornelly. Now, obviously, we need to acquire land to deliver the projects in line with the revised programmes once they're confirmed. So obviously, we haven't built the schools yet. So this has slipped into the next financial year. And obviously, we are working at the moment with a number of partners on this, not least Welsh Government, to make sure they support us going forward on that. So it's associated with the Band B schools, specifically on line 7 for Heronsbridge School and the MIM projects in Cornelly.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I just ask a quick question about the response? Because on page 8, we've got that there's a 3.7 million slippage on the Heronsbridge, but we've had noted there that Heronsbridge is part of the 2 million. So I just wondered where we are with that as well, please. Thanks. How the two sort of tally together. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thanks. My understanding, I will hopefully check this with the school modernisation team. One refers to the land and one refers to the building, but I'll certainly get clarification on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Richard Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I refer to page 9, Awenny Road Industrial Estate. I'm relieved and delighted that this large brownfield site of 20 plus acres in the heart of the Tynfi Valley is to start this year. It has been a topic for discussion both in my stag and in the council for over a decade. Since then, the authority has revisited the potential for the site, and now the proposal to build 180 plus homes to utilise the north side as a transport hub and to introduce some retail is long overdue and welcome. My thanks to the Cabinet Member, the Director and the officers for supporting this opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen Esbrook.
I wonder if you could indulge me, Mr. Mayor. My hand has been put down and knocked me back 5 places.
I'm leaving at 6:30 as I informed you. If I could ask my question now, would it be greatly appreciated?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take my hand down now. Page 17, line 49 of the capital programme, 2023 to 2033, community playgrounds. Could I ask the Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Environment, there's a total budget of 2.906 million and a slippage of 1.8 million and a revised spend of just £106,000 for 23-24. For the forthcoming year, you have budgeted a figure of 2.8 million, and I would like to know how you intend to deliver that amount of work, considering every directorate is expected to make cuts, and during the first 20 months of this current administration, not one playground upgrade has been delivered. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
John, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I may correct that last statement. That's actually incorrect, because there were 9 players upgraded, refurbished in the first year from 22. It started before the election was made, so and continues
Before this current administration, I said, Councillor
and they continued through into 2022-23.
No, Councillor Spanswick, I did say this current administration, which is from May 22.
Well, there were players being refurbished during 2022. And the current programme, this week, the delegated power has been signed for 1.65 million for the next 21, which I hope you welcome, because we have a commitment in our manifesto to refurbish all players, which we will. And once that goes through the process now with legal for the standstill period, the contractors will be informed, and the works programme for all those 21 sites to commence over the coming months. And while that's taking place, officers are already working on the next batch of, I think, 20 odd players to start meeting again with ward members in that next batch. And there's £1 million in the capital programme next year proposed. That's assuming you support it on the budget on the 28th of February, because it'll be part and parcel of the budget. You can't pick and choose. If you support it, vote for the budget on the 28th. And then the next batch will be taking place the following year, or later this year. There's commitment that it will all be done. Well, the current batch, the tenders has been awarded, so they'll take place in the coming months. Then the work takes place, meeting with ward members, which I presume everybody would like to meet as the previous batch, and also do some consultation with schools and school children. But that tender to go out as we get into the summer. That will be later this year. Presumably the tenders come back as the time scale. There's limited officers there dealing with this work. There's less and less officers every day across the council. But the commitment's there and the work is starting, and soon hopefully you'll be able to stand with me at Newbridge Fields and we'll have some photographs taken to welcome the works and let the public know.
I look forward to that, Councillor Spanswick. We did stand there in December 22. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen Eastbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a question to Councillor Rees-Good. It's widely accepted as good practice that once you're aware of significant future expenditure, that a provision is made within the budget or capital programme based on the best estimate so that it features in financial planning. However, despite the high-profile closure of the Bridgend indoor market due to RAC, and that the assurance is that it'll be reopened because the residents then were given temporary accommodation within the REW. Following repair, there is no provision within the capital programme that I can see, given that this programme runs 2032 to 33, 2023, sorry, I'm dyslexic. Are residents to assume that there are in fact no plans to open the original market hall at all?
Councillor Gould, please.
Thank you, Councillor Easterbrook. I think where I'd start is that the current market hall within the REW has been very widely accepted, celebrated. The market traders in there are loving it. They've all told us it's been much better for them. They're seeing increased footfall, increased sales. They've had more people coming into it. They've had people excited to be in this market, which I think is fantastic, and we should really welcome that. I think it's showing how vibrant a space like a modern market space can be. My understanding from officers in terms of the existing market hall is that we are still awaiting the final report from the structural engineers that has still not been received from us. Therefore, we don't currently know what the cost would be to reopen it. However, as we have previously warned members, we do expect it to be significant, and we can't get away from that. In our current headwinds financially, we will have to look seriously at how we deal with that. But we currently do not have those figures. But in the meantime, I am very pleased to see, and I would thank all the officers who worked so hard with the market traders to achieve this, that we have the market up and trading. We have people happy going in, being customers. We have traders making money in that market every week. And I think that's something we should celebrate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could come back with...
Could I just call in the Chief Executive to supplement the answer?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Eastwood, just to confirm, we are still awaiting the survey results that will give us the costs. But importantly, I wouldn't want members to think that this programme won't change between now and 2033. Okay. This is reviewed regularly. Things will go out. Things will come in. I wouldn't want to think that you think this is set until 2033. So clearly, if and when we receive that information, there's then a decision to be made, isn't there, in the way that Councillor Good has described, about whether it becomes part of the capital programme. But I wouldn't want you to think for 1 second this doesn't change. Okay. You'll know already that we regularly review the capital programme.
It's just that there is nothing under corporate landlord that actually specifically mentions the indoor market. We as an authority are still in a 49-year full repairing lease. And we have a second market, but it isn't the Bridgend market. So however good it is, and it hasn't accommodated all of the existing. So you haven't catered for everybody. There are still traders who, some of them have had to make their own arrangements. Some of them, pardon?
Sorry, Councillor. Just to come in here, to be very, very clear, all market traders within the market were offered space from this authority in a space. Some of them chose not to take that. Some of them chose to open up in other venues. I know they have done really, really well. It's really pleasing to see that, because actually some of them have gone out into the town and are helping us regenerate the town centre, and I think that's a really positive thing. Now, to be honest, Councillor, I think it's a real shame that you're coming here and running down the town centre and the market, because actually we're seeing really positive things.
Chair, can I call a point of order, please? This is out of order. This is neither a question nor an answer. This is just a political posturing. Could you please restore order to this meeting?
Well, what is the point of order? And of course,
my point of order, Chair, is that the cabinet member is not responding to a question. He has already answered the question. He is now just making a political statement.
Correct.
In response to the question. So where were we with it? So I'll go over to Councillor Easterbrook. Are you content to move on, Councillor? Move on? No, I think the
point of order, because I believe there is a chair here in this chamber, and it's down to the chair to make that decision as and when to move on. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So
the floor can call for the motion to move on.
Yeah, I concur with that, but it's apparent that the floor would like the to move on. So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to go over to Councillor Simon Griffiths, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note in the record that there's an additional payment to go to the crematorium, please. I think 49,000. I wonder whether you could give a little bit more information about whether that work is now complete with that payment, and also where that funding is coming from. I think this is the question for the cabinet member, please.
John?
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you for the question. Cottage Crematorium Works, the additional funds required, all the money, and Carlos, the finance will confirm, perhaps if you want to, all this is a separate fund. It's a joint committee by ourselves, Bridgend, Vale, Glamorgan and Rotherham staff, and some wonderful work, 1.2, 1.3 million pound for the Flower Court. If you haven't seen it, it is an amazing structure that's been built there. much better, and it'll be there for the future generations. But that money has nothing to do with our council fund or council tax or anything that we do within this chamber with any money that's spent by BCBC. It's a totally separate fund, but it has to be reported. Not quite sure how or why within this report though, because we look after money for them, I think.
Yeah, just to add, it's our asset, therefore we have to report it as funding through the capital programme. However, as Councillor Spanswick has said, it's a joint committee, and this money has been accumulated by that committee over a period of time, and is due and will be fully funded via that committee with no input from BCBC.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Philip Jenkins.
Yes, thank you very much. My question is really, well, to the cabinet member for communities, etc. There, although it's not specifically alluded to in here, it worries me, and obviously will worry my constituents of the slippage that's been proposed and allocated here. But and as the cabinet member has alluded itself to the manifesto, I'll take you back to a question I asked. At the beginning of this new administration here, and obviously I had to wait time to see if that pledge that this administration has made to the people of the county borough, and the wording was based upon a £10 million extra in a resurfacing road programme of the highways. Now the question is, which the communities director and so did the finance controller tell us, that was based at £2 million, based over the 5-year term of this life of this particular administration. My question is, has that £2 million extra, as is pledged, been placed into road resurfacing? And if not, why not? Part of the other question would be, would they continue to pledge that amount of money in?
Should we ask the first question?
The question is, I want to know, and so in plain English, have you put the extra £2 million per annum coming into the second year, that £2 million from you, equating to the end of this 24, would come to £4 million. Has that been put into a specific road resurfacing programme over and above the normal highway contribution?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Spanswick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jenkins. And as I think it's been stated on more than one occasion, the commitment is to provide an additional £10 million over the term of this council. Now, ideally, it could be phased £2 million a year in simplistic terms. It hasn't been that way. It's just over £3 million so far. But the commitment is still there. But with the term of this council till April or May 2027 to put an additional £10 million into a road resurfacing programme. Now, I can't put it any clearer than that. But it's not quite exactly the same each year. We will have catch-up to do by the end of this term.
Should I be clear on that, then, that they were really promising to stand by the pledge that by the end of this life of this administration, before the next election, the full amount will be allocated to road resurfacing?
Councillor Spanswick.
That's the intention, but I haven't got a crystal ball between now and 2027, and I don't think you have either.
Okay, thank you. I think you've raised your hand now, Councillor Spanswick. Have you for a question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's just a question. I was just going to clarify the one with the crematorium, but that's been done now. Just the last one to point out, and it's there later on the agenda today, the traffic signal replacement with the Coity Castle Gyratory. I don't know, perhaps Coity Castle Pub Gyratory. I'm not sure what the proper name is because it's not Coity Castle as in Coity Castle. But that's there for just under 3.299 million. And I thankful that's there because only not several weeks ago, just one car was broken down outside on that road with the traffic lights. And the old system came to grinding all past these offices. So I'm glad to see that's there, and members will, hopefully the town centre members will welcome it, because some of them weren't present at the last council meeting when I did make an announcement about it.
Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick one from me. Page 15, line 79, Puffin Crossing on Kenfig Hill. Expenditure 14,000, spent 6,000, expect to spend the 14,000. Is that the total cost of the Puffin crossing, or is it in conjunction with another partner? If it is the latter, a conjunction of another partner, what is the percentage of the total cost of that 14,000, please? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gary.
I can give you the information on that. Thank you very much for your question. And the Community Council paid for the majority of the crossing. It was in conjunction with BCBC, so obviously we had to tender the works through the council itself, and they provided all workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no more indications there, so can I take members to the recommendation and ask if they are all in favour?
I'll formally move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
No. No objections then?
No objections.
No. Okay, no objections approved. Thank you. Item 7, information report for noting. I will now ask the Chief Officer, Legal and Regulatory HR and Monitoring Officer to present this item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've got one information report for noting this month. This is a report that's been published since your last scheduled meeting. You'll find the details of paragraph 3.1. And as Councillor Spanswick mentioned, it's in relation to the urgent delegated decision in relation to the traffic signals. I just ask Council to note that report. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder for this report, please?
I'll formally move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So open for debate. There are no questions. So can I take members to the recommendation and ask if they are all in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, item 8, to receive the following questions from Councillor Graham Walter, the Cabinet Member Housing, Planning and Regeneration. You've received your answer. Have you any supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And I'd like to thank Councillor Good. Councillor Good would be aware that myself and Councillor Farr are in regular dialogue with elderly residents living some 10 to 15 metres away from the Grand Pavilion in a retirement complex. Can he assure me that any concerns that they feed back to us both around hours of work, noise, disruption and contractor parking will be taken into consideration as the project moves forward? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Walter, for the question. As you'll be aware, we've had extensive consultation with residents, particularly within Pavilion Court, as we've developed the project, which is now at REBA 4A of development. See, I'm getting to know the REBAs, and you know, we will continue to do that. We now have commissioned air pollution monitoring in the area to make sure that we have a baseline before the work starts to understand what it is currently, and then to make sure that as work carries on, we see any changes, and we make sure there are mitigations to work to do that. We've also said, as part of the tender process for the project, that we will have a traffic and construction management plan that will be signed off by the local authority, which will include times, how vehicles go in and out of the site, and how we make sure that temporary arrangements are in place to keep minimum disruption to all residents, but particularly local residents who reside in the area. You know, the project, I think, is going to be really, really positive. I really hope that all members and all residents in Porthcawl will see it as a real advantage. I think it's going to be an absolute jewel on the beautiful coast of Wales, and I'm really proud of it. I'm really looking forward to launching it, and I look forward to being there for the opening with Councillor Walter and hopefully some very pleased residents when we finish the project in a couple of years.
Thank you. That's a very reassuring response. Thank you.
Okay, I will now take one further member question, if any, now. Councillor Richard Granville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, as the pavilion is now closed for development, what lessons have we learned from my stake, and what can we do to take on board to reduce and disruption within this new project?
Thank you, Councillor Granville. Well, I think we can all accept in the chamber that there are lessons to be learned from Maesteg Town Hall. The project obviously didn't quite go according to plan, although largely due to things beyond our control, such as the COVID pandemic and the war in Ukraine. We've already made a commitment, both myself and the director, to have a full wash-up review of that project once we're finished, which I think is important for any major piece of work, to be honest, because it's important, regardless of how well or badly something goes, that you have that opportunity to reflect and see what can be done differently. As part of this project, because we are conscious that one, it's another Grade 2 listed building. There's been a lot of hodgepodge work done to it over the years, much like Maesteg Town Hall, although a very different fabric of building. That we make sure that we have those pieces of work in place to be clear what work is done. So what we've done in this particular instance is we have now commissioned 2 contracts. So there will be an initial contract where we will remove things like plasterboarding and pieces that have been put onto the building over the years, strip it all straight back. So we have a very, very clear view of what needs doing where and how the building's structure has been affected over the years. That will then allow us, when we go to the full tender for the main construction contract, to have a very, very clear understanding of what needs to be done, and we aren't left in a situation as we have previously been in Maesteg, where we have found things like dry rot in other areas which we just simply couldn't access at the time of developing the initial plan for Maesteg Town Hall. Having said that, I think, it is a very different project, and I don't anticipate that we will face the same issues that we have in Maesteg Town Hall. And I think it's gonna be an amazing project. We've been working very closely. I know the team have worked very hard because of cost inflation already. We have reviewed some of the plans. They'll come forward in due course. But I think it's going to be a really, really great project, and I'm really confident that we are in a position to make sure that those plans go to plan. I don't know if Janine wants to add anything to that.
Thank you. To Councillor Tim Thomas, to the Cabinet Member, Climate Change and the Environment. You've had your response, Councillor Thomas. Do you have a supplementary?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you ever so much. But firstly, I just wanted to really pay tribute to the drainage team, who I think have worked incredibly well under these difficult conditions, limited resources, and pretty horrible weather at the moment. I think that should be noted. But before Christmas, parts of my ward, including pockets of Bryn Menyn and large parts of Hale Lyfog, experienced quite concerning levels of flooding. Now, turning to the response to my written question, the response stated that in order to prevent flooding, just quoting it, scheduled culvert grids are inspected on a monthly basis and before Met Office storm warnings. Yet, in my experience in the local context, I'm communicating with a number of external and large landowners who have neglected their culverts on their land for well over a decade, sometimes 2 decades. And I think I'll name the broadest of shoulders, that relates to the Crown estates. So I want to know, what is this authority doing to ensure that standards of maintenance of these land types are being maintained, because it's clearly impacting the public highway and residential areas? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Thomas, for paying tribute to the drainage team at the start of your question, because there's a lot of work they've been doing, and there's a lot more they're going to be doing, well, not just the rest of this year and future years, with our climate change and things changing. But as to the specific question about inspection of grids that are not our responsibility, I'm not sure the exact legal situation of exactly what can be done, what should be done, what are we doing. I think that's something we need to take away, unless the Director has any more to add now, but I think that's something we need to take away and just clarify and find out exactly what that is, especially for, as I said, the Crown Estates, but there's many other private landowners over grids which could be causing problems further onto public land.
With the reply, yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, absolutely. I concur with the Cabinet member. I'm afraid we only have responsibility for the culverts and the pieces we own, and on private land it's a very different responsibility. But if you can let me know the areas, Councillor Thomas, we can look to write to the people who own those lands and offer some support. Because one thing in particular that we've done over the last 2 to 3 years is we've put an awful lot of culvert alarms on areas which are prone to flooding. So not just do we do the regular checking of those culverts, but we also have this alarm system rolling out now, more and more each year. So when we get triggered, we can go out and have an instant response to that. And a couple of years ago, we bought more machinery, very glamorous, called a gully sucker. So we have 2 of those machines now that can literally get in and remove debris in a quick amount of time, because we are getting more storm surge as the years go on. So I'd like to assure you that we are committed to continuing to fund this work. I'm afraid it is funded by Welsh Government grants. I mean, I've got some figures. Over the last 3 years, we've spent 1.3 million on areas such as, I've got some examples up in my stag. We did flood sensors up at Hale Vine on a culvert there, and I know that I have Councillor Jenkins with us today, don't we? We are looking at Brodowell. We hopefully will have some monies to this year to undertake some drainage installations with some ongoing problems we've got there. So we will continue to work tirelessly at this. But with regard to your specific question, if you could point us in the direction of those private owners, and we'll see what we can do in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Take one further member question now. Simon Griffiths, Councillor Simon Griffiths. You're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was in full of admiration for the response of the authority staff to help during the recent storm. My question really was around the consultation that we have for the budget at the moment, and I wonder whether the Cabinet member could express an opinion on whether our response to a similar storm in the future would be hindered by the cuts that have been proposed in the budget, please.
Councillor Swansea.
Thank you. Yeah, as it stands, the current proposals, Councillor Griffiths, there's no proposals to cut that team or our resources for dealing with flood response. There is a grant that we have every year from Welsh Government that I need to check, because that was a specific grant last year, and I've learned this year it's been rolled into the overall grant that we have from Welsh Government. So I need to make sure that grant, I think it's close to £250,000, is not lost into the big pot of money that we. But there's no specific proposal to cut any of the team and the resources for dealing with this area of work this year, and hopefully not in any future years.
Thank you. Councillor Mark John, to the Cabinet member, Climate Change and Environment. You had your response, Councillor John. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It sort of goes back to the first part of my question. It's answered part of the question, but not the first part. Does the signs that have been stolen or removed come out of this council's budget, or is that a Welsh Assembly budget? Because on the way here today, I noticed there was 3 20-mile-an-hour signs that have been taken down or stolen or removed, just as part of this blanket 20-mile-an-hour coverage. Thank you.
Councillor Swansea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor John. I assume that wasn't clear the question if that was referred exactly to 20 miles, because the question states, does this authority have responsibility to repair stolen and signs that have been distorted by vandalism? So I'm assuming there's a few words missing there, which you meant to say 20-mile-an-hour signs. But I can confirm that any 20-mile-an-hour signs, the funding has been covered by Welsh Government. All the funding for the signs, the work being done, and any vandalised or signs that get replaced will be funded by Welsh Government. It's not funded by this authority.
Okay, thank you. Take one further member question now. Councillor Paula Ford.
Hello. I would just like to know that the Betws Road in Bremennin, they're currently 20 miles, and I want it to stay as 20 miles. That it is a really serious safety issue there, and I just want to know for the residents' concerns that it will stay as 20.
Okay. It isn't relevant to this question, I'm afraid, Paul.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were on the 20 mile an hour one.
Yeah. Shall we? I better take another question then.
Nobody else is.
Well, because it was a...
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Stephen Bessel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just ask for a clarity on the answer that Councillor Spanswick gave? Because I thought I remembered Janine saying in a meeting previously that we would be liable for damaged signs. I may be wrong, but I thought I remember in a meeting somewhere that Janine had mentioned that any signs that are damaged are our responsibility. It's just for a point of clarity, that's all.
Janine, and then Councillor Spanswick. Janine,
yes.
please.
Thank you, Councillor Bledsoe. Yes, you are correct in that. As in, we are the local authority with the highway authority, so any signs that are damaged we have to replace, absolutely, regardless of whether they're 20 mile an hour or not really, under the highway authority. But what we have had guarantees from the Deputy Minister, Lee Waters, is that because this has been particularly troublesome with the 20 mile an hour rollout, there is additional funding available now to bear the cost of those signs that have been damaged. What I would say, however, and I don't really want to tempt fate here, is those instances have significantly dropped as people have got used to the new speed limits going forward. But so we do have a statutory responsibility, absolutely, to replace those signs, but there is money from Welsh Government to cover the signs that we've replaced. Thank you.
Content? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Urgent items. As I have received no urgent business, I will now close the meeting and thank members and officers for their attendance today. Safe journey home for those attending.